Good Thursday evening to you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the show. It is good to see you, and it is good to be seen by you. I, doing the seeing and being glad, am me, Mr. Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver, and I hope you guys are having an absolutely spectacular evening this evening out there. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I am hyped for it being this close to Halloween. And what are you guys doing? What are your Halloween plans? I don't know. I don't know if we're going to stream. I honestly do not know if we're going to stream on Halloween. I'll just have to see how things go. Last year I kind of did a late stream, um and then we sort of, uh just hung out. We delvered and chilled is what we did. Um but anyhow, hey, Ironcaster, not a problem. And I think that's a good question, and I'm actually gonna pose that to the audience. But listen, before I get into all that, please, guys, if you like good content, what the hell are you here for? But if you like okay TTRPG content on YouTube, particularly of the live stream old school variety, and you haven't already, please click the subscribe button, click the bell icon for notifications. Again, that's assuming you haven't already. And I will do my darndest to keep providing you with all that I can. Um, but anyway, Kyle has messed up my buttons here in my media, so I am having a hell of a problem finding. Let me see. Is it? No, it's not logo. It's not overlay. It's not video clips. He changed things last night. So it's a little hard for me to find the little button that shows you guys my name on screen. Is it rename brand? No, it's not. So I'll try and figure out where that went. I didn't know he had changed things along with the background last night. But anyhow, um, if you're watching over on Twitter, by the way, and you're wondering what all I'm talking about, well, it's a thing. We have some settings over here, but it's all in my mind. I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm just going to see if I can find it. It should be under brands. I'm going to edit. There we go. Okay. All right. There I am. All right. Wonderful. So anyway, as I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, Halloween plans. I know a lot of people like to do like a horror run, and people tell me, let me tell you something. Everybody and their brother says, ooh, Ravenloft. I find Ravenloft, from a fear standpoint, to be about as scary as just a mid-tier Dracula movie. Just like, it's okay. It does not send me. It does not strike fear into my heart. I don't feel any particular, like, just. I find the existential creepiness, the almost Blair Witch horrorness of the Tomb of Horrors much more frightening than Ravenloft. Hello, Jorge Uribe. Good to see you, my friend. Damien247. But we will be playing some Call of Cthulhu tomorrow night. And if you haven't been following that, you've missed a pretty fun thing, I think. We're playing live action, not live action. We're live playing, live streaming a Call of Cthulhu game. We do it 4 times in October. Every Friday in October, we play Call of Cthulhu, and I'm hyped for it. I'm excited for it. If you're not familiar with Call of Cthulhu, it is a fantastic horror role-playing game from Chaosium. I haven't played the new versions. I have a great affinity for 4th edition Call of Cthulhu, but I will say that the game is essentially unchanged from the 1st edition in 1980 all the way up to the 6th edition, not including, I know 7th. They've just fundamentally changed a lot of things about the rules. But yeah, 1st through 6th, I believe, are all essentially the same rule sets. So I'm looking forward to playing that. We have been playing a bit of a different vibe this year. See, typically people associate Call of Cthulhu with the 1920s and 30s, possibly the 40s. I chose this year to set my game in the not in the 1970s, in the year 1970. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been an extraordinary amount of fun. And it hasn't really fundamentally changed the nuance of the game, the creepiness of the game. The party is still isolated. There are no cell phones. There are no computers. There is no internet. There is no, 5,200 TV channels. No easily portable recording devices. So I'm highly, highly, highly pleased with how things have gone in the Friday night Call of Cthulhu game. And if that sounds like something that interests you, maybe tomorrow binge watch, because it's so far it's 9 hours, three 3-hour sessions of Call of Cthulhu. And the penultimate last week was quite a humdinger. And I take my DMing hat off to our players for doing an absolutely amazing job of role-playing the creeping, gnawing terror that is set upon them. And this week coming, we could finish in like an hour tomorrow night, depending on what the players do, or we could push on past midnight. We'll just have to see, but we're not stopping until we're done. So I'm looking forward to it. Michael, we're not LARPing on stream. Just relax, brother. That's not what's happening. So yeah, if you're new to the stream, you're gonna want to tune in and catch that. So what else is going on? Oh, also, before I get to Diecast Ironcaster's question, I do want to mention something. I've been keeping you guys up to date on Wheeling Dragon and what is going on with her. She hopefully was able to spring out of the hospital tonight. She messaged me and said, busting into the hospital today. I'll try to make it at the stream time. Wheeling Dragon, Susie, honey, just relax, just concentrate on feeling better. That is the paramount concern. If you don't want to prop up or sit up or even hold your phone or tablet or screw around with your laptop, that's a-okay. That's a-okay. Oh, I know, Michael. I was being snarky back. It's all good. But anyway, so Diecast Ironcaster asked me a question. Literally, the moment I was going live, like I was setting things up, and I had a message on Twitter, and so I said, "Forsooth, hark, what is?" So this was Diecast Ironcaster's question, which it was asked in a DM. That is a direct message on Twitter. When I say a DM, I don't mean a dungeon master. But he said, I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste this. This was his question. I was flipping through the 1E monster manual and noticed no monsters had XP listed. Was this primarily because the expectation would be that XP was to be generated from treasure? The primary XP in any case for any monster, assuming that it has it, is getting the XP from its loot. Certainly there are creatures that have no treasure. Dinosaurs, for example. I think it's the Brontosaurus. And don't at me with modern names. You're probably one of those people. If you're sitting there going, it's Brachiosaurus, actually, you're probably one of those people who doesn't think Pluto is a planet. But anyway, to move on. And in response to that, let me just say Yuggoth does not forget. Anyway, Brontosaurus, 20 hit dice, no treasure. Oh yeah, you're getting all your XP from the Bronto. But by and large, you are going to get your XP from treasure. Let's take a look at something. Let's take a quick look at something. I want to share you guys something here. This is a very oblique answer, by the way, to Diecast Ironcaster's question. The short answer, if you're in a hurry, if you have a dinner party to get to and you're like, no, I just want the answer, Bill, I've got to go after this. The reason that the XP values are not given for monsters in the monster manual was that the thought was that the monster manual would be one and done, and the Dungeon Master's Guide actually has all of the XP values for the monsters listed in it, which I can show you guys that. It is the Recapitulation of Monsters Index. Let's see. Or appendix, I should say. That is, let's see. Where is it? Let's see. Appendix E. First, let's take a look at this. Let us take a look at it. Okay, so I'm not gonna faff about with this. Aerial Servant. It occurs to me I haven't shared this with you guys yet. Okay, here we go. The Aerial Servant. There's the basics of it. It's armor class, hit dice, number of attacks. Don't get excited, folks. 2-hit AC 0 is not a mechanic in AD&D. We have the charts. Number of hit dice 16. Damage per attack 8 to 32. Surprises on a 1 to 4. You need a magic weapon to hit it. It's only semi-intelligent, and its XP, its base XP is 5,250 plus 20 for every hit point. So if it has 5 hit points, that's plus another 100. There you go. But as it is 16 hit dice, it's going to average, let's see, 16. That's 30, so that's 64. So that's 64 times 20 hit points plus 5,250. It's all listed here in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Now, hey, Retro Roost, thank you very much for the super. I really appreciate that. I really, really appreciate that, Retro Roost. I do. That is very awesome. God bless you. Okay, but let's take a look at something here. Let us go down. Let us look at the monster manual and let us consider, oh, I don't know, what's something fun? Why, I know, because it's printed right on the tin. Let us look at the red dragon, the huge ancient red dragon. All right, its treasure types, you can see there. I'll zoom that in if you can. I'm going to zoom it in anyway. Its treasure types are H, S, and T. Hunter S. Thompson. Boy, can you imagine Hunter S. Thompson at Gen Con? I actually wrote a very jokey post about that once. I'll read it to you guys one of these nights. But has treasure types H, S, and T. So what does that mean? Let's go all the way down to the appendix of treasure types. Now, unfortunately, I can't tell you guys just off the top of my dome what a red dragon would be worth in terms of XP, because it has a fixed number of hit points, a fixed number of hit dice, but they're based on age level, etc., 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 etc. First of all, under H, we have a 25% chance of having 5 to 30,000 copper pieces. That's not a lot. That's not a huge amount. We have a 40% chance of 1 to 100,000. That's D100 times 10. Is that right? Or is that D100 times 100? It's D100 times 100. Or D100 times 1,000, rather. Silver pieces. Now, if you max out at that, 100,000 silver pieces, that's, let's see, 20 each. It comes out to a mere 5,000 gold. 10 to 40,000 electrum, 10 to 60,000 gold, 500 to 2,500 platinum pieces, 1 to 100 gems, 50% chance. These are not insignificant percentage chances, guys. And 10 to 40 pieces of jewelry, 50% chance. Maps or magic, any 4 plus 1 potion and 1 scroll, 15% chance. That's just treasure type H. Now let's scroll down, because it said S and T also. Well, S doesn't have anything on the shelf except all the way over here, 2 to 8 potions, 40% chance. Now let's take a look at T. Again, it's bare until we get to 1 to 4 scrolls, 50% chance. The treasure you will get from taking down a red dragon or two far outweighs the XP you will get from the actual act of slaying the dragon. So, it is, if you can connive the dragon out of its treasure, which I will let Tracy Lesh, the next time he's on, I will let him tell you the story of how he managed to do that in a D&D game being run by Skip Williams. It is a not insignificant amount of XP you get from treasure. It is almost all of your XP coming from treasure, is how you do it. So I hope that sheds a little bit of light. I hope that illuminates you. That's very true, Michael. You will upset all gold. You will upset gold and silver based economies, which makes me think that dragons are probably in the employ of lords, even if they're of the metallic variety and therefore ostensibly good. Look, don't slay anyone. Just you breathe that gas that knocks people unconscious, right? Terrify the troops, knock knock out the knights, the magic using princes, and then gently remove the treasure and hide it in your cave. Keep our economy going. Um Machine gun that shoots silver pieces and start hunting werewolves. I don't mind the party getting their hands on treasure. Lots of treasure. And I'm not saying, because I can take it away. All their gold crumbles into dust. No, no, no. I'd like to see the party succeed. I like to see them earn it. I'm not just going to be like, oh, your first level. You pick the lock that I gave you a plus 75% chance on, and there's 50,000 gold pieces in there. Congratulations, everyone. Chris Sims, good to see you. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. But I do like the party to come through with a big win. Now, on the subject, so Retro Roost again, thank you for the super. But Retro Roost was saying he's running S4 Lost Caverns of Sojconf as close to raw as possible. It's very enjoyable, and I believe I might be more into the wargaming combat aspect of the game than the role play. Well, I think it's a balance. First of all, congratulations on running S4. It is a phenomenal module. It is probably one of Gary's best works. But I find S4 to be a module where, depending on what you encounter, there can be a fair amount of role play. But yes, it does lean into the combat aspect. It does lean into the combat aspect. You've got Lud the bee here. You've got Chosos, I think his name is Chosos, the Gorgamera. There's a Draco Lisk. There's a clay golem, which, if you know the description from that should make your blood run colder than any stuffy old European in a designer bedwear. Yes, I'm talking about Strahd in Ravenloft. There's the Chasme demons. There's, oh gosh, the Drelsna herself. There's the river. There's the cave of endless bats. There's the cave morays. There's the Fomorian giants. There's an Umber Hulk, I believe. I think there's an Umber Hulk. There's that trap. That plane shifting trap. You know the one I'm talking about. So much in that module to take in. And riddles galore. But are there donuts? There are mushrooms that heal you for 1 point for every one you eat in a cave that the monsters can't enter. That's as close as you're going to get to donuts in AD&D. Oh, undoubtedly Ironcaster. But yeah, there's there is a great, huge amount of opportunities in Lost Caverns of Sojcomp. And as far as role play, I mean, if the party finds the Veil of the Gnomes to the, I think it's to the east, could be wrong. Yeah, if your party finds the Veil of the Gnomes, tons of role playing chances there. Tons of role playing chances. No, they don't, Daniel. So anyway, but D&D, it's fantastic wargaming rules for pencil and miniatures, I think. Well, I mean, if you run the module, you can deem it so, Daniel. That's the beauty of classic D&D. You can play it any way you want. Yes, as far as the wargaming aspect, as we see here on the OD&D set, rules for fantastic medieval war games, campaigns playable with paper and pencil and miniature figures. This is war games right on the tin. I'm not one of those people, though, who will jump up and down and Elmer Fudd about how D&D is a war game and you better play it as a war game or else you're fired from classic D&D. I don't care. Ralt's Bloodthorn spooked his Ravenloft players by having the first village come across basically run by Puritans, and it got worse than... Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, you know what? It is kind of a it is like kind of a Mario underworld. It's dangerous, and the players have to jump over things, and all sorts of nasty deaths await them. See, for me, my favorite art in order is Drelsna in Repose and Errol Otis's Bay Hair on the cover. That just sends me, man. I love that picture. The village lighthouse was a greater mimic that required human sacrifices to run properly. Oh my! Sounds like a take on Siren Head. Vinny so wants an OD&D box set. Good luck with that, buddy. So I bought my OD&D box set in 2006. It was before Gary passed away. Now, this is not the one that I purchased. There's a tale in the telling here. The one that I bought had a split in the corner. I think I paid $60 for it. I sent a check. I bought it from an add-all bookseller. I contacted them via email. I said, I want to buy it. They said, we're shipping it. Can you send us a check? This is just before PayPal really got rolling. I mean, it was still out there, but it would like nobody took it. They didn't stamp out their own credit cards. So I get it. And well, while it's shipping, after they pack it up and ship, the lady that ran the online bookstore said, I'm so sorry. We just found out one of the corners is split. If you've mailed the check, we'll refund you. I think it was like $20 or something. Which they did. And so yeah, $60 in 2005. I'm gonna very carefully put this back up here. So oh yes, OD&D is available print on demand, Jorge. No reason to not have a copy. In fact, I have when I want to go play OD&D somewhere, I have this bespoke 1-volume, all 3 books in single, printed on Lulu. You know, I had 4 or 5. I gave them away. The people that I gave these away to, you'd have thought that I was handing like a Picasso to. I'm like, it's $14 on Lulu. Actually, at the time, I think it was like $6 on Lulu. And then I've got the supplements here. This is all the supplements. So here's all you need to play OD&D in 2 slender volumes. I think it is. Hey, 33K7, thank you for popping in over on the Twitter space and saying hi. Good to see you. So anyway, you know what? We'll look. We'll check it out here in just a minute. And I missed you there, Lord Misfit. Good to see you over there too. So anyway, I have had many. It's over the years, people have given me their RPG collections, and I sold a not inconsiderable amount of my stuff to Doomsword, and I'm doxing him for a reason. Hi, RPG Grandma, good to see you. So I had these giant plastic totes. You know the ones, they're $14 at Home Depot. They're black, they're plastic. When they're full of, say, books, you can stand on them. I mean, they're nigh indestructible. You have probably seen them lying on the road, or the lids lying on the road if you live in the United States, the 44-gallon totes. And I had 3 or 4 of those full of RPG materials. And I just had a ton of stuff I didn't want. And so I get in touch with a few people, and finally Doomsword makes me an offer, a more than fair offer. Comes over, pays me, we put the totes in his truck. That night at midnight, he messages me and says, question. I'm looking back at the list, and about half the stuff isn't here, but here's some things that are. And the stuff that was all just like bits of board games and just stuff like that. Like literally what I call the garbage box. And I was horrified, because here's this dude who's come in and he spent a not inconsiderable amount of money on this large collection of RPG materials. And I was just beside myself. I was like, I will try and get it to you tomorrow. And he's like, no. I'm going to be back over there in a week. This was Christmas week. He's like, I'm going to be back over there at the first of next week, and I'll just pick it up then. Don't worry about it. He was very nice about it. So I'm completely flipping out, and I'm like, what have I done? I know I didn't throw it away. So I have a couple of totes full of old college texts and what I thought was the garbage RPG material box that serve as the platform on which my filament 3D printer rests. So that night, I get up and I move the 3D printer and I look through the top tote. It's the college textbooks. I pick that up, I put it aside. Now, these things weigh probably 75 pounds full of books. And I open up the next one. Thank God it's full of the books he wants. But I have a third tote that he didn't take that's still here. So I'm going to give him that tote. I'm going to put this tote back. So I start moving stuff around. Now, all of this wasn't here. At the time, I think I was still streaming. I think I was still sitting over here. Which means this may have been Christmas of 2022, not 2023. It doesn't matter. So I'm like, I'm going to switch these totes out. And instead of moving things properly, I start trucking stuff around in too narrow a space. I start to stumble. And two things happen. One, I dropped I did not drop a great height. I literally slid down and just firmly set the tote right on my big toe, on my right big toe. But my leg was wedged between the table and the tote, which was over here. And I can't, so I'm desperately trying to do this. But as I have done this, I start to fall in this direction. Sitting on a lower shelf is my OD&D set. Pasteboard, when it's 50 plus years old, tends to get brittle, not. So I caused the side of the box to collapse and basically snap like a piece of balsa wood. But I got his tote sorted. And I mention this casually. Doomsword shows up with that OD&D box top. He took my battle damaged OD&D box top and gave me that one. So that's not mine, that's his. Thank you, Doomsword. So that's the saga. Now you guys know the story. Now you guys know how wonderful he is. It got a free attack on me, yes. And by the way, for those of you curious, and I think it was Christmas of 2022, but for those of you who are curious, the bruise on my nail, I had Garand thumb on my big toenail on my right foot. If you know what Garand thumb is, you know what I'm talking about. I had Garand thumb. It took just about a full year for that crescent-shaped bruise to work up the length of my toe until I could snip it off. Anyway, so Vinny is out there complaining about my about the Lulu ODD. I don't have. That's right, Sergeant Hulka's big toe. I don't have the template for that. The best thing I can tell you to do is just get it and send it to Lulu. Just pick out some nice cover art and send it to Lulu. Assemble it all into a single PDF. What did Doom do with mine? Now, I want to be 100% clear. It wasn't completely flattened. It was still a box top. He just put it on one of his. Have a good evening, Nordic. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Anyway, 33K7 said this earlier, and I meant to get this back. Just wanted to mention I read 50% of the module, Iva the Undying. I have to say, if your Greyhawk campaign is taking place before the Greyhawk Wars, the Great Kingdom of Aerie would be an awesome place to explore as a mid to high level characters. Ivid the Undying. You know that I know the module title, but it's post AD&D. So I've never I have looked at Fate of Istis because that is a lot of stuff by Jim Ward and Rob Kuntz, and I'm not opposed to that. But I don't like. Let's advance the timeline. I want my Greyhawk timeline to advance the way I want it to. So, like the way it is now. Now, I don't even know what they've done now with Greyhawk, and I don't want to. But I know in third edition they just deemed that the Giants won in Jeff, that Owen went mad, that the Theocracy of the Pale crushed Radek, basically between the barbarians from the north and the Theocracy of the Pale, Radek was crushed. That Ayuz had taken over like a big chunk of the middle of Grey. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that, and I don't want to advance. I think the world of Greyhawk is always in a state of flux, and no one's going to gain the upper hand. It's not the Lord of the Rings. It's not Game of the Thrones. Game of the Thrones. Wow. It's not Game of Thrones. It's not Lord of the Rings. It's not. It just is. It just is. The last time somebody tried to gain primacy in Greyhawk, we ended up with the Invoked Destruction and the Reign of Colorless Fire. Speaking of flattened box tops, I have some BX boxes that came from original production print that were unused. That is amazing. Campaigns and Conquests. I scraped up. I found a couple of generous sellers who, for not very much money, actually, I was able to buy a magenta and turquoise Moldvay and Cook basic and expert sets. But that is amazing. Campaigns and Conquests. That is, wow. L says, I really regret not buying OD&D books on eBay back in 2010. Lots of good offers at reasonable prices. Yeah, okay, so that brings me back around. I was going to look at this. Let's see. You know what? Let me pull this up here. This is how let's play that famous game that we enjoy doing called How Bonkers Are eBay Prices for Original D&D. Let's see. Original D&D white box. So let's look at that. And if you guys want to do this, All right, so here we go. Original D&D white box. $1,495. Here's a less expensive one. This is an OCE that is $900. Here's another OCE for $800. Here's $1,000. I'm from Canada and they think I'm slow, eh? Oh, that is fascinating, Campaigns and Conquest. I wouldn't mind looking a couple of them box sets you claim to have if you want to let a fella hold those. Here is someone who has done a reprint and a box set, and they want $500 for it. But let's look at sold items. Let's look at sold items. Someone on August 30th bought this OCE, which is in about the same condition mine is, for $1,000. I haven't looked at a wood grain set. Here is an OCE someone sold for $650. Here's a very ragged OCE somebody sold for $400. $650. This one was removed from auction. Well, it's listed as sold. It's listed as sold. That looks like the same one. Somebody flipped that. No, it's this one is much more ragged. Let me see. Can we scroll down to so this one was thoroughly clapped. So if you're going to find a quote unquote inexpensive OD&D set, this is it. That's how you're going to get it. Not like the one mine is. I did see an OD&D set locally in a private sale. I have the pictures of it. I kept the pictures. I was amazed, but it was. I think it ended up going for $14,000. And then there's some miniatures. Nobody asked for those. So right now, there's one for only $361 with 11 bids on it. Oh, these are all completed. These are all completed. That's got a supplement 1 Greyhawk in it. Results matching fewer words. Oh, lizard logo box. Sweet. So right now you're looking at anywhere from $500 to $1,000. Yes. Let me see if anybody has any woodies up for sale. These actually garner a fair bit of news. Original D&D. See if any of these have gone. We're still looking at completed. Let's see. OD&D wood grain. Yes, there's a bin for 19,500. There's a bin for 23,000. Here's one that's only 10 grand. If you want to get in, here's one for 10 grand. Here's one for 8 grand. Yeah, I think that's I think that's all you're going to get. $24,000. And let's look at the now. Okay. This is coming from Noble Knight. They know what they have. That is all I'm going to say about Noble Knight, and I don't mean that in a negative way. But I mean at that point, you are buying you're buying Amazing Comics #1. You're buying Spider-Man #1. You are purchasing a Da Vinci Sketch. You're buying a Model T Ford in vintage condition. This is not this is not like I'm going to buy this and take this home and play D&D with it. You're not going to make the Model A into your daily driver. You're not going to go home and flip through the Spider-Man comic or the Superman comic or the Batman comic #1. These are strictly collector's pieces at this point. They were collector's pieces in the early 2000s, the mid late 90s and early 2000s. I think like an OD&D set, a wood grain OD&D set, would set you back like $1,500 back then. But if I had it, I would scan it so we could get the Hobbits and Ents version out there. Although I will point out that despite the fact that Hobbits and Ents were deleted from the core rules, they are still mentioned in supplements 1, 2, Eldritch Wizardry, 1, 2, 3, and I think that's it. And Chainmail. I don't think they were ever changed in Chainmail. I have told this story before, but yes, I have actually been on the verge. Well, no, I shouldn't say I'm on the verge. I was on the verge of it. That just makes it hurt more. I was given the opportunity to buy a wood grain OD&D set in 1990 or 91 for $50 at a local comic shop. But understand, 1991, it's just a mere 17 years removed. But I think even then that was criminally low. Dice Tales bought 2 wood grain sets for $20 at a hobby shop in Skokie in 74. You hadn't have cleaned them out and put a few in your closet, or we wish you had cleaned them out. The closest I ever came to that was actually back in the late early 2000s, 2007. Was it 2007? I think it was 2007. I was at a local historical miniatures gaming society convention. This is a convention of a few hundred people. And in their vendors hall was a guy, the same guys came. The vendors hall was the periphery of the main gaming hall. So I went into one of the little booths and was flipping through, and in various wargaming rules, a guy had 5 or 6 shrink wrapped copies of Chainmail, and he wanted $9 a piece for them. It was 5. It was 5 now, and I bought one. Well, I said I'm going to buy one. I went over and I told my wife, and she was like, "Buy them all. Buy them all." And they were shrink wrapped. They were the comb bound. They were whatever printing revision these are. But this was not one of them. I had already bought a copy of Chainmail. I already had a copy at home. She said, "Buy them all." And I did. And I ended up slowly selling them off. I didn't wait long enough to slowly sell them off. But yes, I did for a brief while. I had a stack of shrink wrapped copies of the comb bound version of Chainmail. That was my big no crap there was. And he wanted $9 a piece for them, but because I was buying all of them, he gave me a discount and only charged me $7 a piece. $35. $35. Well, Al, I would ask you, how old was your friend? I mean, I know a lot of people who got wrapped up in that nonsense. I mean, my parents never made me burn my books, but they were happy when I sold off my OD&D book, or not OD&D, my basic expert and my AD&D hardbacks and the couple of modules that I had for beer money when I was in college. They were glad to have it gone out of my life, but I forgave them. Oh, old Grognard, that's terrible. That's such a shame. An Apple One. When those things show up, they go for a pretty penny. There was a case, this merits Googling. Let's see. Yeah, so this was back in 2015. $200,000 Apple One computer thrown in the trash by mysterious California woman. A California woman in the process of clearing out her garage has thrown away $200,000 of computing history. The unidentified woman left an intact Apple One desktop of around 200 built by Apple founders Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ron Wayne at Clean Bay Area Recycling Center in April, concealed inside boxes filled with electronics owned by her recently deceased husband. The machine was only discovered by Clean Bay Area staff a few weeks after the woman dropped it off. The recycling center, which swiftly sold the rare computer to a collector for almost $250,000, is now trying to find her to give her a 50% cut of the profits as per its policy. I hope they found her. I have a vague recollection that they did, but I could be wrong. But I sincerely hope they found her and gave her the $100,000. Back when BattleTech was Bill's main jam, yes, there were giant robots. Yeah, the Macquariums are interesting. Here's the thing about Macs. Here's why I don't get up in arms over Macs. They made hundreds of thousands of Mac 128Ks, hundreds of thousands, possibly even millions of them. The small form factor Mac, the all-in-one Mac, that slab-sided jobby, they were producing those up to the end of 96, I think, or 97, maybe. No, probably not that. Probably more like 93, 94. But the point is, they made millions of those, millions of them. So I don't get super worked up about a vintage Mac. I don't. I could 3D print a Mac case, sand it down, paint it that beige color, stick a 9-inch LCD in it with a foam bezel, and run a Mac emulator on a Raspberry Pi. And even there's even the STL files to print the keyboard housing, and then you just buy a project small form factor keyboard to bang in there. So yeah, I don't stress about original Macs. And if somebody was just like, I don't want this, I know you like old computer junk, here's a classic Mac, I'd have been like, sure. I had an 030 Mac laptop. They called it a PowerBook, but it was not a Power PC. I bought it at a computer surplus store, and I gave it to my mother-in-law as a joke. I was like, hey, I have a Mac laptop for you, Jerry. Happy birthday or whatever. Just as like a larf. One of the most laughable things I ever saw on Antique Roadshow was the two guys, and I guess one of them passed away recently, which I'm not bad mouthing him. But yeah, it was Antiques Roadshow, and they were arguing over I damned if I can remember a rusted street sign covered in bird shit or something, I'm sure. But in the garage where they were picking over this stuff, on a shelf, there's a shrink-wrapped copy of Marvel Superheroes, the TSR game Marvel Superheroes. Not like on display, like set aside. Some Salvation Army got a lot of money for some books he was told to throw away locally. I think he made at least 10 grand selling them online. Can't remember the books, but I think I remember a few signed by the authors. Wow. I wish I hadn't gotten rid of my Dawning Starblaze copies of the Robert Aspirin myth books. Those were a fun juvenile read. And the art by Phil Foglio inside was fantastic. I did get rid of my Chaosium copy of ElfQuest and my ElfQuest graphic novels. There are 4 volumes. The independent comic scene in the early 1980s, for me, it was very strange, but I was drawn to it more than superheroes in tights. I will tell you, though, in the mid-late 1980s, if you were a nerd, you were issued a copy of Batman, The Dark Knight Returns. It was just like, welcome to suburbia. Here's your copy of Batman, The Dark Knight Returns. Read all 4. So I like black and white independent comics just thrilled me. I almost got in on the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles wave from Laird and Eastman by Tundra, and I let it pass me by. And then I got all excited when I saw them return to the shelves, and I was like, woohoo! And I bought up a bunch and suffered through the hand-drawn art and everything. And then I got my copy of Comic Book Collectors, or Comic Book Price Guide. It was a monthly. It was a magazine. Yeah, second print. They were literally cover value and stayed that way forever. I did not. I never played Marvel Superheroes game. But yeah, there were so many black and white indies, and ElfQuest had started in the early 80s or the late 70s, even like 79. And so I started, I literally got the last two issues, and I got the Phil Foglio drawn issues of Myth Inc., which there were only four. Like they never even finished the main storyline. They were so much fun to read. They got a new artist in, and I did not cotton to his stuff, but even then they didn't finish. But they were all from Warp Graphics, WARP. I tried reading A Distant Soil. Man, I'm sorry, but with all respect, if Colleen Doran relaunched A Distant Soil today, there's a certain crowd that would eat up A Distant Soil. I tried to like A Distant Soil. Oh, that's nice, Damien. Very nice. Um, but yeah, I got like the last two issues of ElfQuest, and then for like Christmas and my birthday and Easter even, I got the graphic novels and was able to read the entire thing. Then they did a partnership with Marvel, and Marvel started reprinting floppy versions of ElfQuest with new art. So I started collecting those. But anyway, to get back to the independent comics, there were comic companies that literally like 3 issues a year, which 12, 13, 14-year-old me, I didn't get it that these are people who had day jobs, right? Hand drawing, hand laying out, go get this stuff to the printing. So yeah, this stuff just trickled out, and it's not like you were going to find it at B. Dalton or Walden's. You had to go to independent comic shops. Take care, Jorge. Have a lovely evening. Um, but yeah, so I had a little collection of weird indie comics crammed in amongst my X-Men, Star Wars, Cloak and Dagger, um, West Coast Avengers, Handbook to the Marvel Universe 2. Or some other mainstream titles I did. Oh yeah, the aforementioned Batman. I would read about Flaming Carrot, but I never actually read Flaming Carrot. There were a lot of a lot of independent comics that I would think about picking up. I think I picked up one issue of Dave Sims' Cerebrus, and I would read these articles. I would read these articles in like uh Comic Buyer Price Guide and so on and etc., talking about like how, oh, you must read Cerebrus. And the panels that they would choose to share, like there's a character in Cerebrus called and no, it's not Cerberus, it's Cerebrus, because he misspelled it. I mean, the whole thing started basically as a funny animal parody of Conan. And there was a character called the Roach, and the Roach would show up and and he looked like a person. Okay, he did not look like a cockroach. But a big deal was when he spent a bit of a storyline as Wolveroach, obvious parody of Wolverine. And so I was like, yeah, hell yeah, let's check this out. And I bought one issue and was like, well, I just wasted $1. I like, and I know it's hard coming into a comic, but you know, just in the middle. But yeah, it never did anything for me. And then of course, you know, Dave Sim turned out to be um, what's the word? Insane. Just just bonkers. But that's where we're going to leave the comic talk off at. Although I did buy. So this was an indie comic that I had like one issue of when I was a kid. And I just said I'm not going to talk about comics anymore, but I am going to talk about comics. Because it's such a funny I just think in retrospect it's hilarious. I saw this comic at one of the things that cut down on that curtailed my comic, exactly, Robert Phillips, like Howard the Duck was an edgy animal character. But one of the things that curtailed my comics was if I so this being pre any kind of accessible internet, like, you know, I wasn't going to play like tell my folks, yeah, I want to make a long distance phone call to New York or Philadelphia or Atlanta or Miami or Tampa or wherever to random comic stores to try and find these comic books. Oh, good night, 33K7. So I said, if I can't pick up the comic with issue 1, like if they don't have the other issues at the comic store for a reasonable price, I'm not doing it. I'm not getting my heart broken and never being able to follow this story. And so I saw this fantasy comic called Elf Lord, ELFLORD, by a comic company called Aircell, and I'll get to that in just a minute. Which I've told this story online before, but I think it's funny, and I'm going to tell it again. And it looked like a pretty okay fantasy comic, nothing too special, but it scratched a fantasy itch. But they had like issue 3 and 4 at the comic shop, and I was like, nope. And I would think about it from time to time. So I ended up looking on eBay a year or two ago, and I snagged all 6 issues of volume 1 for $36. And in my digging around, so the person, the guy who drew Elf Lord, apparently there was sorry, Nordic. Apparently there was some drama because back in the day, in addition to doing his fantasy comic, he did adult comics. I mean, nowadays, like, you'll find people on Twitter drawing corn and just like, here's a commission for it. Yeah, I do that. Isn't that awesome? I got a Patreon. People line up to do it. It's like not a thing. But that like rendered him that was a big no-no. People like, oh, he draws sexy comics. But apparently Wendy and Richard Panay let him do some work with them. So it did it, Dave? I didn't dig down into it. I'll be done soon, Nordic. I'll be done soon. So here's the last thing. I always thought Aircell was a pretty cool title. or was a pretty cool name for a company, rather. Aircell, that's cool. It implies it implies uh cell animation cells. Air is going to these free. uh but the reason Aircell Comics was called Aircell Comics was in the 1970s and early 1980s, the Canadian government was pushing big on energy conversation, and they would basically write a check to anybody who got centralized air conditioning in their home and got their house insulated. So the bottom fell out of the construction I guess in Canada. They had a recession. Bottom fell out of construction, and this guy was just doing comics for fun, was suddenly out of work, and he was like, well, I got to draw more comics and keep making money, so I guess I'll start a new company. And somebody said, well, you got this air conditioning company, why don't you instead of setting up a whole new business, just call it what your air conditioning company is called, hence Aircell Comics. That's it. I'm done talking about comic books now. I don't know, campaigns. I don't know. But anyway, so tabletop RPG stuff. And I'll just throw you off your airship, Nordic. I'll be fine. Fireball shots for the wizards. There apparently is or was a Wizards tabletop role-playing game. That just kind of blew. And it came along fairly late, too. TTRPG writes in the 90s and 2000s were so weird, because it's like, hey, we'd like to make a role-playing game about Ghostbusters. What the hell's a role-playing game? Sure, fine, whatever. Yeah, you can have the license. There was a Army of Darkness role-playing game in the early 2000s. Apparently, TSR struggled mightily to get a Star Wars role-playing game license. Jim Ward explained it to me that, yes, for the movie Wizards. I did not, Damien. I did not. Nordic, that just means you're going to be hanging in the air, getting shot with silver-tipped arrows for all the longer. Yes, West End Games outbid them. And some people have asked me, they're like, hey, does that mean that Star Frontiers was supposed to have been the Star Wars role-playing game? No, it is not. What Jim told me was that TSR wanted Star Wars license. They didn't tell him that. They just said, hey, can you put together a role-playing game in this many weeks? And he was like, yeah, sure, because he's Jim frickin' Ward, the machine gun. So Jim Jim is just, it's like he bangs us to get. This is like, I vaguely recall he said he knocked it out in 6 weeks with help from others, but they didn't realize that. By the time they were done with it, TSR had fumbled the ball, and some little company called West End Games had scooped it up. And So Jim did not write a Star Wars role-playing game. Like there's no Jedi, there's no lightsabers, Force, any of that. Jim just wrote a science fiction role-playing game because TSR was like, how fast can you write a science fiction role-playing game? And it's Jim Ward, so he's like, what are you talking about? I wrote it as you were asking me that. 300 pages, go. You know, it was Jim Ward. So so they were like, oh, we don't need this, but it is finished. All right. so that's how we ended up with Star Frontiers. And Jim once said to me, I wish I'd known that we were trying to get Star Wars. Yeah, West End Games is another way. I only know ancillary stuff about West End Games. You know what always made me like the little bit I read about it. Torg and Rifts seem to be the literally almost the same game as far as background style, you know. But Star Wars did get Nordic. We have 4 interviews on my live stream with Jim Ward. Jim Ward was a creative genius. He's half the team that created Deities and Demigods. He was a very close friend of Gary's. He is one of the hobby's founding fathers, and unfortunately, he passed away just this past year. But anyway, oh, that's very cool, Grognard. But one thing I will tell you is there were 2 times in history. There were 2 times in history when you could buy tabletop role-playing games at Walt Disney World. And one of them was only a close thing. And a gentleman who also passed away, and it was kind of tragic because like he and I chatted on Facebook about this. I was so over the moon that someone answered my clarion call. But these 2 basic sets, you could buy those at the Village Toy Shop in Disney Village. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there is a location near Disney called Lake Buena Vista, and it is now it's like Disney has kind of expanded it. It's a massive shopping area. It used to be kind of a, hey, we can catch you coming out of the park if you're staying in the hotels across the street, like the private hotels, and you know you want to get your kids a Mickey Mouse ear hat or you know a t-shirt or postcards, or you need film, just come right over here. There were a couple of restaurants. The Empress Lily is a restaurant that looks like an old steamboat, etc. But you don't have to pay Disney park prices to go in. But there's no rides. There's no attractions to it. It's literally just shopping. And they had this toy store in the middle. I had a vague memory of seeing D&D for sale there, and someone told me that they had. And I asked on Facebook a few years ago, and a gentleman said, absolutely, they sold it because we were there in 1982 vacationing with a family, and we went to the Village Toy Shop, and I spent some of my money on Expert D&D, and we played D&D in the hotel room, me and my dad and my sister. And I thought that was wonderful. But to get back to Jim Ward, or to get back to West End Games and Star Wars, there's a motion ride in well, I don't it doesn't really move, I don't think. It's a projection ride called Star Tours. They have at Walt Disney World, MGM Studios. It's called Disney Studios. I've been called the first few years it was called MGM Studios because the executives, Ted Turner owned MGM. The executives at that branch sold MGM the pictures, the rights to the movies and stuff to Disney. Turner was incensed and immediately started trying to buy all of it back. Eventually, they dropped the MGM part, but the at Disney or at MGM Studios, their Star Tours. And so you'd go in the ride and you'd sit, for your 3-4 minute thing after waiting in line for God knows how long. At least the waiting in line for God knows how long was in an air conditioned building. I'll tell you that. And then you'd go through Star Tours and you'd come out. And of course, you exit through the gift shop, right? That's always how it is. The Tatooine Traders gift shop sold West End Games Star Wars. I think they even sold D20 Star Wars. I think that may have been the case also. But they had miniatures, they had modules, they had the core rule books. This was Star Wars merch, right? So now you know that. Now you know that. So yes, D&D was in Toy Story. It is again. I don't know what Wizards of the Coast is going to do with 6th edition, but the D&D starter set was on the shelf at Walmart. It was on the shelf at Target. Of course, thank you, Bain Capital. We no longer have KB and we no longer have Toys R Us. But I did see it at a few independent toy stores. Yeah, there's a 16 millimeter print. I don't know if archive.org has gotten back up off their knees. But there was a 16 millimeter, A New Hope episode 4 on the opening crawl preserved on archive.org. That sounds about right. Nordic. But anyhow, so that is that's just an interesting piece of lore. And I can't think I mean, who else but Disney could sell tabletop role-playing games in the park enough to keep them stocked and on the shelves? I mean, I wouldn't think Universal, because what's the big fantasy draw at Universal? Harry Potter. And now watch, somebody's going to be like, actually, but there's no Harry Potter tabletop role-playing game. There's let me think. I mean, that's really it, right? So, and those are the two big theme parks. I mean, there's like a Bandai Namco theme park in Japan, but I don't give a shit about role-playing games. I can believe that. I can absolutely believe that Campaign and Conquest. Atari consoles back in '82. I can certainly believe it. Yeah, lots of video games from HP. And honestly, I mean, I don't think Rowling would. I don't think she'd like. I know way back in the '90s when it first got rolling, people, no pun intended, um, people were like, "Oh, this should totally be a pen and paper RPG." She cannot be ignorant of pen and paper RPGs. I have Wolverine's autograph. My daughter got me like a little receipt. She was like, "Dad, I got you Wolverine's autograph." The Wolverine cosplayer signed a little scrap of paper for her, and I have that, and I love her for it. So yeah, I feel like I feel like Harry Potter was a big missed opportunity, but I yeah, I can't I am surprised. I am very surprised that no other uh no other theme park has said, "Yeah, let's sell gaming stuff here too." I think it's a missed opportunity. I really do. Well, does anyone have any TTRPG questions or comments for me? Comments, criticisms, negative, nasty remarks? Well, with 3D print on demand, there's no reason you can't just come up with one. Think about that. One of the most innovative things I ever saw, I don't know how practical it was, probably wasn't very. There was a giant robot game called Spirit Warrior Mecha. Well, the game itself was generic, but their default campaign rule was called Mecha, which was a play on words because MECHA is, I believe, an Aztec word. Um, Spirit Warrior Empire, that was it. And there were battle poles. They were on tripods because you were fighting in space and you'd be fighting at different altitudes. And they sold little plastic miniature models that you'd put together, and you would clip them on to the poles at different altitudes, which is pretty cool if you ask me. If I had if I had a traveler ship, what would I call it? I don't know. I have honestly, I don't know about that. I mean, Traveler tends to be pretty hard SF, so I think Millennium Falcon would be a little, I don't know. The Roger Young. There you go. I'd call it the Roger Young. And if you know, you know. Did I like Dragon Magazine back in the day? I didn't read it much back in the day. I love it now. I mean, this right here. Well, the PDFs. I don't fumble around with the discs, but this right here, this is a mainstay, right? Like, install Windows, install video card drivers, copy the PDFs I have on a flash drive of the Dragon Magazine archive. I love these. And it's kind of a fortunate, unfortunate thing. I'm glad we have them. But I mean, these were all scanned at like 96 or 120 DPI. They're not great scans. A lot of them are way too dark. Like those old black and white like here is a photo of our miniature lines. Yeah, it's going on semi-gloss paper, dude. And you sent us a black and white photo that wasn't greatly lit. Maybe it looked dramatic and everything in your studio there, but we'll publish it. And it is essentially just black when you look at the PDFs. Well, I mean, all of the PDFs. Now, let me tell you something. The magazines do not net Wizards of the Coast a penny of money. No one is getting paid for them anymore. They're not available for sale. They are unobtainium. Check out Anarchive, ANNARCHIVE.org, and you can find all of those PDFs. If Wizards of the Coast comes back and reissues that, they won't. You can find them all. Rory had the magazines. I envy you. I do have some physical copies. Will I be angry if you? Will you be angry if I hit it with an asteroid? Sure. Have I looked at Savage Worlds? Played Savage Worlds a few times, Michael Connor. It doesn't do anything for me. If I'm being, I know it's a good game. I think I can move out of the way of the slow, oh my God, it's coming right towards us. Bug plasma. I don't know, though, that they go back that far. I mean, if they do, good for them. But I don't think Paizo sells like 1970s PDFs of Dragon Magazine. I will absolutely retract that statement if they do. Like, if they go all the way back and sell all of the old issues, then I take back my statement. I actually got some custom art from the artist who did Nodwick. I have a print somewhere. I'll have to find it someday. But yes, he did the cover, the front and back cover of WGH5 Lords of the Howling Hills. If you've ever seen that module that I did, Aaron did the cover art with the agreement that I would never sell it. I can't profit off of it. I mean, I couldn't anyway because it's AD&D. You guys want to see it? I can probably find the module online real quick. How sad is that? I don't know where it's at. Let's see. Oh my God. That offends me. Lord of the Howling Hills is available on Scribd, which means you have to pay them to view it. That making me angry. Oh, this is so weird. It's on some show. Okay. All right. You're going to let me download this because this website that it's on is strange. That's if you guys even want to see this. I don't know that you want to. There, I probably just gave my computer the clap. What has infuriated me is the The module that I wrote and give out for free, Lords of the Howling Hills, I'm going to contact them. I'm going to contact them and tell them that they need to take my module off of their website. Anyway, so yes, Aaron did the cover art for me for Lord of the Howling Hills. And I will share that for you. I will show that to you guys if you haven't seen it. I hate it that I have to go through this whole process every time I want to switch a window to present to you guys. That is the front cover. The party is fighting the green dragon that is the villain at the end of the module. You have entered the Howling Hills at the behest of the barbarian warlords. You have overcome the humanoids in their fortress dungeon, and you've braved the undead terrors of the storied tombs. Now, finally, before you is the last obstacle, the vaunted durance of the Lord of the Howling Hills. Will your party survive this final challenge, or will they perish like those before them? This module was originally used as a convention adventure for HMGS South Recon 06 convention and is a continuation of a series of 3 related convention modules from the Delver's Dungeon. This module contains a fully detailed scenario, maps, notes for the Dungeon Master, and full background integrating it with the other modules. It may be used with WGH3 Into the Howling Hills and WGH4 Tombs of the Howling Hills, or it may be played as a standalone adventure scenario. Be sure to look for other exciting advanced Dungeons and Dragons adventure modules from the Delver's Dungeon. 2007, the Delver's Dungeon, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, is a registered trademark of Wizards of the Coast and is used without permission. You got unfollowed by me. I don't even... Yeah, Twitter is bizarre. There's the map. And here's the text. I'm quite proud of this dungeon map, actually. Quite proud of it. No disintegrations. And let's see. I don't know why I decided to do it in gray. I wish I could remember the program I used to draw those dungeons. It was kind of jank, but look at me. I'm kind of jank. And there's the second map, which I may have actually boosted that from Dwarven Forger. I may have created it myself, but that's the second level of the dungeon. And there's the back piece. And the party is fighting some were-rats. I love how he drew this dwarf just braining that were-rat. I adore that. And that you got the elf fighter ducking. It's just good stuff. None of that contact info is relevant anymore. Yep, cover art by Aaron Williams. Truly a coup. I mean, nowadays it would be impossible to just rock up on somebody and say, hey, can I get something that nice for free? Anyway, I'm about done, guys. My voice is starting to go, and I have a 3-hour Call of Cthulhu game to run tomorrow night. I was gonna dip out on you. Hey, Wave of Mutilation, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, man. I really do. Thank you for the super. Just as I'm getting ready to cruise on out of here, he, bam, hits me hits me with some plunder from down under, and I appreciate it, brother. I really do. So with that said, big ups to Wave and Mutilation. Thank you so much for the super. Thank you, Retro Roost, for your super. That was super cool. We are going to be back tomorrow night. Tomorrow night we're going to be playing we are going to be playing classic Call of Cthulhu. I hope you guys will all tune in. It is the finale until next year. But the spooky stuff that can reach out and grab you tonight, of course, is the dreaded owl bear. Do watch out for them. Peace. Love you all.
Have you seen my owl bear? Here's to all the weirdos everywhere, in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owl bear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around, some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle, way off course? Naked as a toad, all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in his little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing dicks, just take me to the show.